or a little bit by myself. I actually graduated by Houston in 2004 as valedictorian. Attended Texas A&M University in College Station from 2004 to 2007, where I received an internship over here at Covidien. Started off in quality engineering. I had no idea there was even such a thing as quality engineering. I thought there was like petroleum, mechanical, that thing. So quality engineering, okay, yeah, why not? Let's do it. And then towards my second semester, they said, hey, if you go ahead and transfer here, we'll go ahead and finish out, hire you, and that's it. So I actually graduated from Texas A&M here in Commerce, Texas. And to tell you the truth, I liked it a lot better. A lot smaller class sizes. There I had 400 people in a class, 8 sections of 400 people, so they could care less if you're there or not. I mean, here, you could obviously notice if somebody's not here or not. So, and right now, I'm currently employed by Covidien Commerce in Texas, Medical Supplies Division as the quality manager. I'm also kind of, it says pursuing, but really more dabbling, I guess, in my master's. Who is Covidien? It says 41,000 employees. This is a little older slide. We're close to more about 60,000 right now. We have 62 different plants in 57 different countries, so obviously that's why she asked me to come and talk a little bit about international business. We manufacture about 50,000 different medical products, $10 billion company. Actually, last year we were $14 billion, so top 5 healthcare companies. So we're in there with like Johnson & Johnson, Siemens Medical, and those kind of people. I don't know who that is, so they don't work for us.
That was my sister, what not?
Yeah, that's your sister. Segment overview, basically have medical devices, imaging solutions, pharmaceutical products, and medical supplies. And that's what we consider our GBUs, or global business units. And then you see the smaller divisions in between there. So we're in medical supplies. So you have nursing care, medical, surgical, monitoring, OR products, sharp safety, which we produce for, and then also original equipment manufacturing. Anybody know what OEM stands for? Basically, I'd make the syringe, I give it to somebody else, so you can put whatever you want to on it. So there's a lot of, OEM usually comes from like the car manufacturing industry. So like one company makes all the shocks for, Ford, Dodge, everything like that. And then in that division, we have 4 plants. Commerce here, we have one in Crystal Lake, Illinois, DeLand, Florida, and then Norfolk. It's not Virginia, it's Nebraska. Yeah. They told me I was going to go to Norfolk. I was like, I can go to Virginia. No, it was like January. I thought it was pretty funny, yeah. Freezing fog. You ever seen freezing fog before? Yeah. You're driving there and you don't see another living thing for like 2 hours. There's no cell phone reception. If I died, they would never find me. All right. History. These are all the different brands. So Covidien, is an umbrella corporation. What they've done is we actually used to be Tyco Healthcare. Then they had the whole Tyco scandal where the guy spent all that money on his wife's birthday party, and well, that got abolished. So now we have, if you see, Kendall and Sharp Safety are the 2 that I actually manufacture for. And I also make syringes for CareFusion, Cardinal Health, Hospira, and those kind of people. So a little bit everywhere. So global sales and distributions, the ones in orange or red there, we actually sell directly to them. We have distribution centers in those countries. And then the green is a third-party distributor, and then the yellow is that we actually export straight to that government agency there. So the plant overview here. That's the plant. Still doesn't look familiar? Big blue building? A little bit now? Yeah. That's us. We started in 1974 of construction. We actually started off making surgical gloves, and then as we progressed, we've first started off as American Home Products, then Sherwood, Davis & Geck, eventually acquired by Tyco Healthcare, and now we're Covidien as of 2007. But it took us we're still changed, so about 5 years. It takes you about 5 years to transfer your name from Tyco Healthcare to Covidien, so we're still on that right now. It costs about $1 million per product line to be able just to change your name. Total square foot, 310 under the roof, 47 acres. We have about 340 employees, 300 hourly, and 43 salary. Average tenure is about 11 years in hourly, and then actually about 15 years in salary. So there's a lot of people out there. Product history, I'll go through this real quickly. Basically, we started off in 1975 surgical gloves. And then in 2000s, we actually are making syringes. So basically, we start off with this. This is actually a Eviprene resin. You want to pass that around? That's actually bought in Canada, and shipped to us. And this is just your regular monopolymer, just polypropylene. So we use about 7 million pounds of that a year. So we start off with that, and we end up with this. Varying sizes of syringes and stuff like that. That's a 20, and that's a 60. So these are major products. So we manufacture anywhere from 3s, 6s, 12s, 20s, 35, 60s, and then the 140 ml syringe. Sample cups, we know them as P cups. Everybody knows those, right? Blood collection devices, and then different kind of packaging configurations. So, operating information, we're internally supported. We have our own engineering department, maintenance department, and motor repair department. We operate 24/7. There's actually only one day we actually shut down. That's for the employee picnic. Then as far as product distribution, about 75% domestically and then 25% internationally. These are our major processes, lots of high-speed injection molding, assembly, and that forth. I actually have some videos to show you. And then also we have gamma sterilization. So we have about 2.5 million curies of cobalt over there that we sterilize with. All right, so this right here is a 300-ton Nisi, it's not Nisi, it's a Nestle injection molding machine. So you'll see it. So it's going to inject plastic from one end, fill the cavities, open up, and then eject them off the core. So this machine makes 48 syringe barrels every 12.5 seconds. How many? 48. Let's see if it'll play. Well, swing and a miss, huh? Or maybe not. I guess not. Oh well, anyway, it opens up, syringe barrels come off of it. Alrighty. So that's about Cavidi and a little bit about myself. As far as international travel goes, I was actually fortunate enough. I just got back from a 2-week trip to Ireland. All I did was just play golf for straight for just 2 weeks. Weather, Ireland, it's really, really windy there. Like my golf bag blew away one time, and I had to chase it down. But it was insane. It's just complete chaos. Like especially driving over there. You drive like on the left-hand side of the road. It's like a manual transmission, so you're having to shift with your left hand, and their highways are really, really tiny. And so I guess the Irish haven't figured out like what fences are, because there's just sheep just everywhere. And like nobody really drives cars. Everybody drives like tractors to town. Yeah. You're driving like this. You're going like 100 kilometers an hour, dodging sheep, drunk people and that kind of thing. Other places I've been, let's see here. I've been to most of Great Britain, so England, Northern Ireland, and then Scotland, Canada, Toronto, Montreal, and then also Tijuana in Mexico. We have a site there. That's a little sketchy getting there, because you have to run up to the border. They come get you in like an armored car and then bring you to the plant. And then once you leave, then they take you back across the border. I've only gone once. The other times I just scheduled in that I was going to be sick. Worldview. Let's see here. Like I said, I mean, I've lived in Texas all my life, so my worldview is, it's pretty small. And the way that communication works nowadays, everybody thinks the world is actually small until you're like on a 9-hour flight from Dallas to England. The world's really, really big. As far as my worldview, I mean, just here in commerce, I mean, you deal with business internationally, whether you like it or not. So it's on a micro scale. Now, when you actually get out into business, I mean, you'll actually get on the macro scale to where you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning to be on a conference call with people in Japan or China or something like that. And also, like your cultural nuances, since Ireland, for example, since everybody drives on the left-hand side of the road, if you're just walking down the sidewalk, you just notice, we always pass each other on the right-hand side. No, you got to pass each other on the left-hand side. So I was like always constantly running into people. And they just thought I was intoxicated, so it was okay. But yeah, it really is. At first it's just kind of a controlled chaos is what it really is as far as international business goes. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about infrastructure, how it works, lead time, response times, and also schedules. Other countries don't operate like us. Like for Australia, they get like 6 weeks vacation no matter what. And that may take them 6 weeks all at one time, so you may not see a person for 6 weeks. Over in England, Spain, France, and that kind of thing, they may actually have like 35-hour work weeks, or they may take their 4 weeks vacation all at one time. So you have people that are just gone for, off the grid for a month at a time. As far as infrastructure lead times go, this is a pretty good example. So this is a syringe we actually take. So we make the barrels here. The plunger tip actually comes all the way from Japan, so it takes about 3 weeks to get here. And then we actually send this to, it's actually filled with saline, so you're okay. We send that all the way down to Costa Rica, where it takes 4 weeks on a ship to get there. So it sends it down there, they get it. If there's a problem with the syringe, say with the rubber tip, there's 7 weeks worth of manufacturing time that that I have to account for on that. I mean, I can't really remember what I ate for like lunch yesterday. So they give me a customer complaint, and I have to figure out what happened 7 weeks ago. So that's a little different there. Like we said, communication considerations. Like Ireland is 6 hours ahead of us. So usually we're up, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning just to be on conference calls with those guys. And also on that level, as far as building relationships in other countries, you got to build, trustworthy relationships because, while you're actually sleeping, they're fighting your battles for you. And because traveling is so expensive and so forth, I have to rely a lot of my people in, say, Asia, Europe, and so forth to actually go in and audit a lot of my suppliers for me. So I have to be able to trust in their business acumen and their skills to keep my people safe, and then also you as the customer safe as well. So you got to really build good trustworthy relationships. And it's also if you go over there, you have to trust too, because as they're translating for you, you hope that they're translating correctly for you as well, that they're just not throwing you on the bus. The oddest one we have, so that rubber tip, we source some from Japan, and then they actually have a manufacturing facility in Kentucky, Richmond, Kentucky. It's right outside of Lexington. So I flew there. I go in. It's all the workers I see are your average, what you think people from Kentucky would look like, but all the management there are all Japanese, and they don't speak any English, right? And, they're handing you your cards. Their names are like Frank and Tim. We always make fun. Hello, this is Peggy. How can we, how can we help you today? So, so we had a translator, but we also had Hospera from Costa Rica there that they don't speak any English, so all they speak is Spanish. So they would say something to me, I would say something, then they would translate it over to Spanish, so back and forth like that. So something that should have taken maybe 15 minutes took us all day. It was the longest. I don't think we got anything accomplished, but it was the longest meeting of my entire life. Yeah. So I have no idea what they said, but I hope it translated out okay. We're still making, product form, so I guess it did. Also, I have 2 bosses. So I have one boss that's stationed in the United States. I have another boss, Vincent Rogers, that's stationed over in Ireland. And even though he speaks English, I do not understand a single word that guy says. So I'm like, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. So I have no idea what I agreed upon this morning. So I guess we'll figure out, maybe later on, I'll get an email or something like that. Okay, and now international standards. Now, how international standards work is, so here in the United States, we report to the federal government as far as quality regulations go. So we report to 21 CFR 820, which is Code of Federal Regulations for the manufacture of medical devices. Now, those are federal laws. So if I break those, they can take me to jail, like Leavenworth, right? I could have like Vicks Hotel or something. Now, when the FDA actually comes to your site, it's called an investigation, right? If a customer comes to your site, it's called an audit. So if I wanted to export products outside the United States, I have to follow what they call ISO 1345, which is the international standard of making medical devices. So if I follow those, I get what they call a ISO certificate. Now, getting that ISO certificate allows me to export products outside the United States to foreign governments. Now, so they come in every 3 years. I think every 3 years, I pay them like $28,000 to come in and audit me. And then every year in between those, I had to pay about $16,000. So they come in to make sure that my site is following what's prescribed in ISO 13485. Now, once they say yes, you actually can make medical devices. We looked, there's not like dogs and cats living together out in the production floor. They will actually give me an EC certificate for my actual products. And now what goes in the products is, since I make syringes, I have to comply with these standards. So there's 4 standards I have to comply with to be able to meet to be able to export a syringe. And now once we get that, they say, okay, now you can declare that your products meet those standards. So that's step 3. And so now once I get that approved, they go in and they say, okay, what kind of product are you making? So they have to go to the MDD, which is from the IEE 92-94. It's crazy. We have just a huge library of this stuff. And they say, okay, well, this is what your medical device is intended to do, depending on the risk level of it. So then once they give me that, I'm able to do what they call CE mark the product. So this little CE mark, you've probably seen it before, like on electronics and so forth. Same thing, except, and then underneath the 0123 is my notified body, which is TUV. Some of them you'll see are like 0244, which I think is like BSI. 0339, I think, is ABS, but that's what you get. So now you get to CE mark your product, and you have to put all the different foreign languages on the packaging. So really, truly, marketing and selling products in foreign countries is all about the packaging portion of it, if you can get through all those hoops. And now, if you run into countries maybe in Ivory Coast and so forth over in Africa, well, they don't necessarily adopt the MDD or the European standard. So what I get is I get the FDA to write me a letter saying that, yes, they've been in my facility, I do not have dogs and cats living together, and that all my products basically conform to all international guidelines. So that's what they call a letter to foreign government. So they send those to those guys, and we get on with it. So here's some more. So here's another C-marked product there. Then here, so that's directly on the primary packaging. So that's primary packaging. So then you get into where you have to put CE marking on your secondary and tertiary packaging as well. So those are labels that go on there. It's 140. Pass those around. So it's a very complicated process. Thankfully we have a corporate regulatory affairs specialist that knows all this, because there's no way you can graduate straight out of college knowing how to submit a 510K or a technical document to a notified body. So as far as international standards, yes, some governments do comply, or they do accept our standards as those, but usually we have to comply. I think there's 94 different regulatory agencies in the world. So not only is there ISO 13485 as a document, there's the MDD, the CMDR, which is for Canada, which is exactly like 13485, and then also JPAL, which is the one for the Japanese. But they're all basically the same. So if you conform to 13485, you can pretty much get through. But luckily, actually, 2 years ago, they started what they call the Global Harmonized Task Force, which are actually going to take all these documents, which basically say the same thing anyway, and put them together. But there's a lot of pushback because everybody knows a good bureaucrat makes him or herself indispensable. So if you can if you actually consolidate these guidelines and regulations, then some people are going to be out of jobs. So that's where the main pushback is there. So until then, we have to make sure that we capture all these documents as we go along. All right, as far as working with other countries and cultures, I guess the best one I've ever seen. Anybody watch Top Gear on BBCA? You watch that show? So Jeremy Clarkson, I think they call him the orangutan. He's a big, tall guy. He was talking to this F1 racer. He said that he was like half Irish and half German. And I looked at him, he's like, half Irish and half German. How do what is that like? And he's like, well, it has to be done absolutely precise and correct, but tomorrow. So that's kind of the best. And as far as I talked about earlier, the Costa Ricans and the Japanese are really, really precise and pragmatic. So they're going to look at every little detail and make sure it's completely correct. One little scuff or scratch on a 5-cent syringe, and they're going to spend $500 sending samples and research studies and all that kind of stuff to me when I'm saying, hey, you know what? For a nickel, I'll just send you another one. I'm sorry. And then you have the Costa Ricans where they're not as pragmatic and they're kind of, okay, we're actually going to build a 400,000 square foot factory. Okay. Well, do you have blueprints, drawings? Have you proved it ahead of time? Nah, we'll probably just go ahead and just, we'll just kind of make it up as we go. But it ends up okay in the end, but I guess they're just not quite as worried about it as we are. That's about it. Like we said, communication considerations, cultural considerations, if any. Like I said, time differences is what I've seen so far. That's a little rough. I mean, you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning talking to somebody that's already halfway through their work week, work day. That's about it. Anybody have any questions for me? No?
So in the process, I see that your sterilization method is the gamma.
Gamma, yes.
How does that?
Okay, hold on. Let me get your question over here. Do you mind coming over here so they can record it?
Well, I can repeat this
Okay,
question.
go ahead.
Okay, so your question is, how does gamma sterilization work? Yeah. So basically, we have they come in and they're in, I guess, big carriers. So we actually load the boxes into the carriers, and they go through and they pass around. They do 6 passes through cores. So we have it's 2.5 million curies of cobalt-61, I think, is the isotope. So it actually glows like little blue rods. So it passes gamma through the device and kills the bugs. Now it's not necessarily 100%. It's not 100% overkill like ethylene oxide or steam sterilization would be. So we have to sterilize to an SAL level of 10 to the -6, or 10 to the 6. So 1 out of a million chance of there actually being a living organism on there. So it's quicker than EO gas. Some things can be EO gas, like this one can be, anything that's in a pouch, so it has to be able to be gas permeated. But things that are like in a hard pack and things of that nature can't be EO'd. So that's why we do gamma. So they come in and actually, so when TVU comes in every 3 years, they have to certify my sterilizer and also the manufacturing, packaging, and maintenance operations as well. Anybody ever been to Ireland before? You been? Where'd you go?
We were in Dublin, and then we took a day tour across the small country. We went to the Cliffs of Moher.
Okay. All right.
Alicia, any other questions? Yes.
Other than language, what were some of the barriers that you faced whenever you traveled to other countries?
Oh, the language barriers?
Other things.
Signage. It's crazy. Like in Ireland, their official language is English, but sometimes they'll just, just to be cute, it'll just be in Gaelic. Like one morning, I remember us watching, the weather, because we're going to play golf, so we went to see what the weather's like. So they're going through there, and they're talking about the news, and it's really crazy over there because, over here we have like mass killings on the news, just really horrific stuff. And over there, I think their #1 story was something about the Badgers had tuberculosis or something. And one of their Congress people or House of Parliament cussed at a cop because he wouldn't let him park his bike there. So once they got past that, they went through, and their weather report was in Gaelic. So everything else is in English, and then they get to the one thing that I want to know about, and it's in Gaelic. But luckily, a lot of the signs are international. So like yield signs look the same, stop signs look the same, and that kind of thing. But everything there is it's in a roundabout system. So there's no stoplights, so you just keep going around and around and around and around until you finally get where you want to go, then you're able to take that and get there. But yeah, and like I said, even though they actually speak English, their dialects are a lot different. So it'd be but the funny thing is though, if they hear your accent, they automatically think you're from Texas. So there was 2 of us from Texas and a couple of us from Georgia, and we're like, no, they're actually from Georgia. We're actually from Texas. And then they think that you live down the street from George Bush. You're like, I really don't. Like my state is bigger than your country. I've never even seen the guy in person. How do you think I live next to him? But yeah, as far as language barriers, I mean, even though they speak English, a lot of times you can't really understand them. Usually, if I go into a store, I just hand them money. They just pick out what they need, and then you just go along.
You don't they don't ring it up on a cash register, and you don't understand how to do that?
No, and the thing is, so it's like just in Ireland, so like the Republic of Ireland is in euros, but Northern Ireland is in pounds. So I don't know. I just handle money. They just go on with it.
Where is the best place to get your money transferred over?
Airport. So once you get in the country, airport, and buy everything duty free. So to answer your question there, as far as language barriers,
Yeah.
a little bit, and then some people that do speak English, they may stumble through there. They may say something, and you're like, I don't think that really meant that, but that'll work. And you had a question too?
Yeah, how does Covidian deal with like recalls and like
Recalls?
yeah, are there any
We don't have any recalls.
like product failure? I know you said like it takes 7 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Like what do y'all ever go through like a period where you have shortages or
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So if we have how it usually goes is we try to catch it inside the facility first. So we do what we call a corporate hold. So we hold it out of different DCs. So we'd send out. So we have DCs in Australia, and like I said, across the globe. So that sends out through email. And thank God, communications pretty quickly. They can go ahead and try to isolate what they have, and we can figure out what's in transit. Now, if we do have stuff that's actually out in the field, we do what they call a health hazards evaluation, where we say, well, is it actually gonna kill somebody? Is it gonna be construed as misuse? Is the product actually adulterated? If it's not, then we release it based on the HHE, and that's usually done by a medical professional and legal as well. But as far as recalls go, yeah, if we do have something that's made here recently, it wasn't my division, but they had sourced something from Pakistan. It was I think it was called a duet, some kind of a tracheal feeding tube or something like that, and I don't know what it was, but anyway, the dimensions weren't right. And so when we built our tools here in the United States, we built them based on inch dimensions and inch tolerances. Well, they built the tool based on metric tolerances and metric dimensions, and we just missed it. And so the tolerances weren't right. So during their procedures, the actual medical device was coming apart, and so then it actually caused death to the patient. So yeah, so it happened pretty quickly all of a sudden from one lot of bad product from the Pakistani shipment. So I think it ended up killing like 12 people in a matter of a month, but we were able to get our hands around it, and so they issued the recall. So like in the medical device industry, your average recall is about $40 million is how much it costs you in lost wages. So, any other questions? And no, Covidian Commerce has never had a recall to this day, knock on wood, hopefully. I don't have one when I get back. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, you said like for the syringes,
Mm-hmm.
the rubber tips in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
different parts. Do y'all have like, if something did happen, do y'all have like a call center there or a translator there that sends the information in each like country that you make the different parts? How do y'all like process the different languages?
Yeah. Okay. So how do we communicate with those other countries? Luckily, Outlook Express in Microsoft actually has an auto translate that actually goes through there. So when I get emails from Japan or China or so forth, they're actually translated on to me, and it works out pretty good. I mean, it's kind of broken, but you can really tell what they do. And then we also have global sourcing individuals as well that speak that language, that really negotiate the contracts and actually go there.
I find that crazy. Like the little rubber tip, it's made over there, and then they put it back together on this side, and just that communication barrier. I just feel like it can just be a huge hassle to get all the information from them. Oh, this dimension is this way. We need it this way over here. Just find that crazy.
Oh, it's chaos. Oh yeah, it is. There's controlled chaos throughout it, but usually everybody knows. I mean, numbers are international, so as long as you can put the numbers down, they realize it. Exchange rates are pretty funny too. We had a return. We sent a lot of our syringes up to Montreal, Canada. Now the rest of Canada, I really can't figure out why it's a different country than the United States. You go there, you're like, why is this a different country? But you go into like Quebec, it really is quite a bit different than everything else. So they speak a lot of French. I just know that Quest means west there, and so as long as you know one direction, you're okay. And I had my production manager with me. I don't think he's ever been out of Texas. He goes to the bathroom, and he's like, I don't know which one it was, but I just went to the one that said homies. HOMMES, so that's men in French. So homies, I figured that was right. So I guess he picked right. But that's one thing. Now, as far as dealing with cultural differences, one thing that's considered rude is if you speak a different language than what's being spoken in the actual conference room. So to say, I'm sitting on this side, and then people from Montreal sitting on the other side, and they want to have a private conversation, so they break out in French and start talking French in front of you. It's kind of like talking behind somebody's back. So if you're ever in that situation, excuse yourself from the room and ask for a different, private meeting room where you can talk, and then come back, because you don't just want to sit there and just talk in front of somebody. So, yes, ma'am.
Do y'all have like company trainings before you go to another country on maybe how you need to act, or how do they prepare you for that?
They do. It's part of global sourcing. So, say I want to book a trip to India, they would come through and have, okay, before you go there, you have to have all these vaccinations, and this is what you have to have. We're forbidden. We can't go to Israel. They really limit the travel to Mexico. But yeah, it's like a 75-page document. You just read through it, or you just ask somebody. I just call somebody. They'll be like, oh, read the document. No, I'm just going to call you. I really don't have time to read 75 pages. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I know that there's a lot of standards that y'all have to upkeep, but as far as like globally, do they ever like conflict, or do they ever change, or does that ever, like if one country decides they want to change the standard of their medical equipment, does it all have to change, or does that ever happen?
It does. It does. So basically, if they update a standard, usually ISO updates their standards every 6 years. So we actually have a new, in 2012, there's a 1345 that's coming out. Usually they don't change them too much, but even just one word means that they have to come back in and re-audit you again. So there's another $26,000 down the hole. Even though they were just there like a year ago. It's like here recently they just changed ISO 9001, which is basically just a global quality standard for any kind of quality management. It's just not just for medical devices. So people that had gotten audited the year before that, now their ISO certificate's null and void. So they had to come back in and re-audit them. So I mean, I don't know if they caught a break or what, but probably not. But as far as conflicting, I wouldn't see it conflicting with each other until they go to the global harmonized task force. Now I'd actually have to issue letters to foreign governments and that sort of thing. But we have it's called info standards, and so basically we subscribe to it, and if they do change anything in there, it'll automatically come and tell us that they've changed it. So
How often does that happen?
like I said, every 6 years, or in case maybe 2 years if they had something horrific happen and they didn't see it. Unintended consequences equal regulatory exposure. I know that they changed the. There was one on EO sterilization to where it had a 2-year revision where we had to go in and re-grandfather some products in. So, other than that, anybody in engineering here? All business? Business? You're in engineering?
No, business.
Okay. Cool deal. Anybody know what you want to do?
Actually, I got a dental office that I'm going to work with after this last semester.
Cool.
Out of Dallas.
Dental, it's regulated as well. Yes, ma'am.
Going in as an intern, how did you get to where you are now? I mean, is this what they like selected you for, or was the travel, or did you have to do some stuff?
I kind of lucked into it, to tell you the truth. It's better to be lucky than good any day. I just knew somebody. We happened to know the quality manager at the plant at the time, and so I started off in August 2007 as a quality engineering intern. They hired me when I graduated in May of 2008, so I started off as a quality engineer. Usually how it goes is if you start off as an associate engineer. So you start off associate quality engineer, then I went to compliance engineer, which I did mostly regulatory affairs stuff. And then from compliance engineer to senior quality engineer. And at that point, you can either go quality manager or you can go to a principal quality engineer, which you mainly do more research and development work like that, but I decided just going to do quality manager. There's CE mark on the crayons too. Anybody see that? So yeah, I mean, you got to. I mean, nowadays, as far as the employment rate goes, you got to get your foot in the door. You need to do an internship to really start networking and know somebody. Put a face on paper.
Just out of curiosity, since you have traveled and you have been involved both personally and professionally working globally, what do you think are the characteristics or traits that you would recommend that people adopt or students adopt as they're working in a global environment?
Oh, patience and tolerance. Like, that always taught me that tolerance is how far, how far your morals and values can be pushed, and then your patience is how long you can stay there. And so I'm kind of went on kind of tight. First started off, and now you got to be kind of passive. Let them, let it happen. Basically, if somebody sends an email, email communication you can get pretty nasty with. It's a lot easier just to pick the phone up and talk to somebody, or if you can, just if they're in the same building with you, just get up and go talk to them face to face, because you're always, personal communication. You can read their expressions and their body language and so forth. So I would definitely stress that, especially in an environment like this, because they, like we talked about earlier, like just nuances. You really don't. They may come off as brash in an email or something like that, but if you go and talk to the person, they really didn't mean it that way. So I would say definitely, in a global, even though emails are quicker and they translate better, I would definitely say that verbal communication, in person or over the phone is more valuable than written communication is in some portions.
I have one more question. Did I understand you to say that y'all actually, the rubber tip, I guess, comes from is it a Chinese company, and then they operate in Kentucky?
It's a Japanese company.
Japanese company?
And the reason why they're in Kentucky is because they make our rubber tips, and they also make a lot of bushings and stuff like that for the automotive industry.
So it's a Japanese company that operates in
Kentucky, and all the staff are Japanese, and they don't speak any English, but they have names like Tim and Frank, and I'm like, Frank, really? And they don't shake hands. They bow. You stick your hand out, and they're like, "What are you doing?" Yes, ma'am.
Anyone like that over here in Commerce?
No, most of them have been, nationalized citizens for quite some time. So yeah, everybody over there speaks English or some form of it.
So do the people at the Kentucky plant, do they actually live in Kentucky, or they just come visit and never go?
No, they live there.
Well, how do they not speak any English?
I have no idea. And the craziest thing, the guy that was the translator is from like Utah. Yeah, I was like, how did you learn Japanese in Utah? So that was pretty odd.
So in the Commerce facility, you don't have any international employees?
No, we don't have any on visas. So they're all American citizens. Now, one time I think there's one lady. I think she's Thai, but she's been here for quite some time. You can understand her. That's pretty cool. But even a lot of our machinery, like this tool right here, is made in Switzerland. So it gets sent all the way over from Switzerland. It weighs like 6,000 pounds. And so when it gets here, something doesn't work, then I just ship it all the way back to Switzerland. And then the molding machine itself is made in Switzerland. Our multivacs and some of our Ceramax packages are made in Germany. So usually they'll send over instructions in German. So we've gotten pretty good at understanding what the buttons mean. What else? The Kale assembly machines. I wish we could get to them. I guess they're not going to play.
You should be able to click through on that. There you go.
If I could play this. This right here, this is an assembly machine that assembles 440 syringes every minute. So it spits about 440 every minute. So basically last year we made 1.5 billion syringes. This thing right here is made in Italy. So if you get underneath it, everything's in Italian. So we have a lot of Italian to English dictionaries and German to English dictionaries. So we get it right most of the time. So that's the Ceramax. And then
Do y'all make the instruments first and then sterilize them?
yeah. So basically, we mold everything first, and then this is actually is going to assemble it, and then spits it out and packages it. If it's going to be sterile, it's usually in a form-fill seal, soft pack or hard pack, and then if it's non-sterile, it just goes into bulk. I guess we're not going to play. Oh well. Yeah, this is a RAM, so you can see the syringe there. I wish you could see this. So this right here is a camera that takes a picture of every single one of these. If you had your blood taken, you know, that little thing they stick in there has a blood tip that goes at the end of it. That's this thing. And so what it does, so it takes a picture of them, and then it compares them to a negative image of it, and it makes sure that all the components are there and ready to go. This is a Stably robot. I can't tell you where it's made, but it's not in the United States. And it actually takes the soft packs that comes off and it puts them in a box for them to be sterilized. This right here, you can't see it, but anyway, there's needles right here, and what this is doing is making sure that the bevel is oriented correctly, so the bevel has to be up towards the safety device, and that blue light over there is actually carrying the glue that holds the barrel inside the post. And actually, we just use regular Loctite glue. You know, it's not some kind of like special medical device glue. Basically, skills required to do my job. You need a 4-year Bachelor of Science degree, preferably engineering science or mathematics. Strong physics background. Elevated mathematical skills. You know, good understanding of non-metallic material processes. Statistical background. Anybody know what Six Sigma is in lean manufacturing? That's still a big thing right now. Presentation and communication skills. Like I always say, you may not know what you're talking about, but as long as you always look like you do, that's always works out well. Yeah. Say it like you mean it, and they'll be like, oh, I guess that guy knows what he's doing. We'll take that. Time management. You know, just you know, manage your time in your calendar. Be self-driven. Basically, your boss doesn't like to tell you how to do it every single time. So if you take the initiative and go and do it, you'll do well. Innovative thinking. You know, think like there isn't a box, and mainly just have common sense. That's a big thing. So it goes a long ways. Business acumen is a good one too. I didn't put on there. You know, just stay calm, especially if you're on a conference call and somebody says something stupid. Just write it down and just move on. All right, guys. Any further questions for me? Yes, ma'am.
Why commerce? Why did the company pick commerce?
Oh, to put the building here?
Yeah.
Tax breaks, most likely. That's what I kept thinking the entire time I was driving to Norfolk, Nebraska. Was why here? Why is it so far away from everything? You know?
Well, and the Commerce Economic Development Council actually does offer tax breaks to companies. If you notice, one of our newest companies is Hydro Aluminum. That's one of the reasons they chose here. So the Commerce Economic Development Council makes those decisions for the municipality.
Because there's also a steel company too. They're like the only one in the United States. I'm like, why?
Why here? Yeah, we have a rail spur too, so most of our residents come straight from Houston, where they make them then, and ship them straight up here on a rail, which is nice to have. We're also not very far from the interstate, so I-30 runs, you know, all the way across the United States. And then we're 4 hours from the, you know, Port of Houston, so 4.5, or actually about 5 hours from Port of Houston, which works out pretty good.
Do you stay in Commerce or?
No, I actually live in Greenville. Is where I live at. So yeah, I just kind of stumbled upon it. Yeah, if you guys actually go to the Convidian website and look up, you know, jobs and so forth that they have. They always have something open. And if you're young and willing to travel, you go a long ways. Yes, ma'am.
Where would you like to like go? Like, if they tell you to like move or transfer, where and when?
Where would I want to go? I don't know. I think Switzerland would actually be pretty cool, or Germany. I like the snow ski, so that'd be nice. I know one place that I didn't want to go that they tried to send me. They wanted me to go to like Serbia. I said, no, I'm okay. You know what? I bet you I know somebody that wants to go to Serbia. I'll volunteer. You know, has anybody ever been voluntold to go someplace? Yeah. I'll opt out of Serbia. No, thank you. I'm sure it's fine now, but that's a long ways to fly, especially on a plane. So.
Any more questions? Thank you, guys.
All right. If you have any questions.